Alright guys, so now we are in Procreate and I'm gonna be showing you guys, well, we're gonna be starting the video basically. So first I'm just gonna remove everything right here. All right. Okay. So, as I was saying, basically any drawing you draw is literally just gonna be a particular shape. Okay? So, let's start by drawing just a two-dimensional shape. So, we're just gonna do a circle. Now, don't judge my circle skills. And if I wanted to, I could have even cheated using the Procreate hack of creating perfect shapes. Anyway, okay, so we're just going to make sure that the entire shape has exactly the same color, right? Okay, there we have. So we've got a two-dimensional circle. Now, this doesn't necessarily look too good. I mean, unless this is what you're trying to draw. But what I mean is it doesn't look very realistic. Right? All we're doing is we're creating this outside line of a two-dimensional circle. I could have drawn a square, I could have drawn a human head, I could have drawn anything I wanted to, because literally every single object you're going to be drawing has this two-dimensional shape which you need to be first understanding. Now, let us imagine that the light is coming in over here, okay? So this is not necessarily going to be exact what I'm doing, but I want to be illustrating these important concepts to you. Okay, so what tells us that this shape is actually in 3D? So as the creator of this work, of this object, I can now decide what this object is. So with the light coming here, I'm going to say that this is not a circle, but it's a sphere, okay? So here what I did is I just went a little lighter in the color I chose compared to the base color, right? So because this is where the light will be impacting first the shape, and the rest of the ball will be a little colored on the side of where the light is coming from, but not as much as the actual point of impact. Okay, I can even do it a little lighter, although again the goal is not to make this perfect. And here on the other side, since it's a circle, by the same logic we will have a darker color coming in here. And so just like that, I've actually created a shape, right? So now the illusion of 3 dimensions exists within this shape, but this is literally the artist's choice. So I could have made it so that the light, okay, so let's do it. What I could have done, if we alright, we're just gonna be recoloring everything, is create a different shape from this sphere. Okay, so I take the light coloring as well, but this time I do this. And on the other side, I do this. Okay, and so now what we have here, and again, this is not necessarily exact, but what I have here is something more like a frisbee shape, right? So just by adding the light here and darkness here, I'm defining the 3-dimensional shape that I'm creating. I hope this makes sense. So I'm going to go back to the sphere I had done. Now let's continue working a little bit on this sphere. So let's say this is actually not a perfect sphere, and what we want it to be is, well, whatever we want it to be. So here, if I add, so we're just going to see actually what happens if I add a bit of light, like here, for example. Okay, so just like this, nothing much. But if I then add darkness to the side here, well, what I'm actually doing is I'm creating a little dent within the shape. So I'm actually adding a shape within the shape. I'm transforming it a little bit, just again by playing with the lighting, because here what it's telling us, I'm just going to put a bit more white here. What it's telling us is that there's a little mound which is going up here, and therefore it's capturing more of the light, and therefore we have a bigger shadow right here. And this is literally the process you use when you're creating anything, any drawing. I use this exact process. Like, you start with the kind of outline shape, and then you start building in the detail by thinking about how the light will affect the different areas of your shape. Like whenever there's a little mound, like think of a human face, for example, the cheekbones, the lips, the nose, all these things have little dents, and all these things will sort of capture light differently. And through how you draw them, through how you make this effect on light onto the face, you will actually be creating a realistic human face. Now let's do something else again. So let's say that I create some kind of hole here. Okay, I want to show you again how light works. So what will logically happen, do you think? Okay, so light is coming from here, and we've got a hole here. Now this right here doesn't look too realistic, because logically, seeing how I made the light here and dark here, there is some kind of roundness to the shape. There is some depth to it. So logically, and also based on like where we're kind of looking at the image from, so this is more perspective, but we'll talk about that maybe in another video. But logically, we're going to have a bit of darkness here, okay? And here what I'm doing is I'm showing that this is actually a very hollow shape. Now I could do the same thing, make the darkness wider, okay, and now the shape is maybe slightly less hollow, maybe more realistic, maybe more in line with these lights here. Okay, so a very important thing is creating, which I know, which people are obsessed about at least, and in my opinion it's an important skill to understand. It doesn't necessarily make a piece of work great, but it's an important skill to realize and understand, is that same thing as, okay, so what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that basically light creates the shape, but the second reason why light is so important, and knowing how to master light very well, is light also creates realism. So realistically, if I wanted to make this shape even slightly more realistic, quote unquote, I would have to add probably a bit of contrast. So I would add a slightly whiter piece here on the actual point of impact. Okay, color the rest a little bit, and here maybe make it a bit darker. Because, so let me explain to you what creates realism. What creates realism is making sure it's tiny little shades of different variations of darkness, or of brightness, or of color. So the more these shades exist, the more realistic the object will actually look. So I challenge you guys, look at any cartoons or look at any mangas or anything you want. You'll notice that the drawings are oftentimes quite simplistic because they use so you see, for example, this shape, it would have no we wouldn't be going from dark to white. It would just be, well, I'll show you what it would look like in a cartoon way. It would look like this. Okay, so this is dark, this is white, this is white, and the rest would be exactly the same blue. This is cartoon style drawing. You understand the key areas, but you go into no level of detail of creating these variations of the colors. So the more realistic something will be, the more you add these shades of either light or of dark or of color. And I challenge as well, like, guys, look at anything in real life and you will see that what I'm saying is true. Now, let's continue experimenting a little bit with this shape. No, so it seems that this is actually starting to look a little bit like a face right now, which wasn't necessarily even the idea, but I guess it goes to show it's good. You can draw literally anything you want. So now, okay, I'm going to remove this. So I just created another hole here. So think about it. Where, in terms of where the light is coming from, where would the dark blue be? Where would the light blue be? So I've already kind of spoilt it, but of course the dark blue would be here, and it would be at the top here as well. Okay, and the light blue would we actually see the light blue? Maybe a little bit here, but based off the angle, because we're kind of below and to the left, we wouldn't necessarily actually see the light blue. However, you see, this isn't right, because here it's deep, here it's not deep. So we need to add a similar level of deepness in order to be consistent with the shape we're drawing. Because every single shape you're going to be drawing will have its own sort of logic behind it. And that's key to realize. And this actually doesn't look too good right now, but that's fine. And the other thing, guys, because we're more to the left than we are. Alright, something like this will work. And you see, if you want to make it a little bit more realistic, you add different shades. So here you'll make it a little bit whiter, here a little whiter. Here you can add a little, you can add little pieces of whiter, which will be these little bumps in the road. This is how you create realism, guys. This is how you play with any single shape you make. I'm just fooling around here. Now, another point that I do just want to mention to you guys is this is obviously this is a sort of solid rock-like shape, which therefore reflects light in a particular way. Now, I said every single painting or every single thing you see is simply different objects, representations of objects in the world, right? Which is true, but you do need to realize that different objects will have different properties, and therefore different objects will sort of reflect light differently. So if this was a drop of water, the way light would work on it would be different. So what I'm showing you here is how you can create any shape you want by playing with just light and dark colors and variations of the same color, and just from that you can create texture, well, not texture, but you can create this illusion of a third dimension, which is what you need for any kind of even semi-realistic drawing. That is how you can create anything. But once you know this, it's your job to study the properties of the different objects you want to draw, because they will all have different ways they react to light. So, okay, let's go out of this one. I might come back into it in a little bit, but I wasn't even planning on showing you guys. But for example, so this is the latest piece of work I did. Now this is some kind of icy water, okay? So it's the same thing, it's a shape. It's reflecting light coming from here in a particular way. But this is the key thing. This is some kind of icy, very still water, and consequently it reflects light in a way which water does, right? So you're going to have these little pieces of reflection here. The light is going to be sort of gradual here. It's also going to have a reflection from the wolves and a reflection from the snow. So you need to understand the different things you will be drawing will have different properties. But focus first on really realizing that anything you draw is a combination of shapes, and you can draw any shape you want just by thinking about where the light is coming from. So you've got a lighter part and a darker part, and make it more realistic by making the light lighter and the dark darker, and creating this shading. And the more shading, the more tiny little different layers of colors you will have in the drawing, the more realistic the drawing will actually end up being. So there you have it for the little tutorial. Now, I'm going to admit this is not a great work of art, guys. However, I think it does the job to explain the point I wanted to make clear for you guys. And last point, which is also very important, is once you know what I've just taught you, the only real limiting factor which will make you not want to draw, make you not want to start a drawing, is your mind. So really make these concepts I just taught in this video, like really incorporate them within your brain, within your mind, adopt the mindset that you can draw anything, because all you're simply drawing is a shape, and the way the light reflects on that shape will create what you're drawing. And once you know this, you can literally draw anything, so you don't have that brain limitation within yourself. Now, on this note, thanks everyone for watching. I hope it's been useful. Do not hesitate to give me any kind of feedback, and see you soon. I'll probably be making more of these.